What's up everybody, Super Dirks fan here for another car review. This is of course the 2005 Chrysler Crossfire. Huge thanks to Harrison Auto Sales for hooking me up with this fairly rare car to review for you guys today. So about the Crossfire, well back about 12 years ago whenever these were first released, they made big waves in the auto industry. It was just so cool looking, and it was during this period where everyone was putting out these very cool concept cars that were all very retro and art deco, and this car in concept form looked amazing, and then for production it still looked really good, and you know, it has a really cool blend of retro stuff here. You have the lines here in the hood and all the proportions of this car. It just kind of reminds you a lot of the 30s and 40s European sports cars especially, but even some American cues here and there. And it's just, I think that even now, you know, being a 10-year-old car, it still looks really good and it's aged so well. And I think the back end is probably even better looking than the front, with that bow tail style rear end there, and it has the deployable rear spoiler. It's very cool. And just the proportions of this car, I mean, it looks like a chop top, and you know, the driver sitting far back in the car here with a long hood and a short deck lid, and it's just it's a very cool looking thing. And you know, it even has this Hot Wheels car kind of look almost, with these staggered wheels. You have 18-inch wheels here in the front and 19 inches in the back, and I just think from every angle this car looks really cool. Right, so for the interior of the 2005 Chrysler Crossfire, well, this is the base version, so it has the cloth seats, and the Limited I think is actually more common because of the niceties that it has, and I would recommend those niceties, because first things first, sitting down in these seats, they're cloth, they're not the nicest. The biggest thing though about these seats is that they don't have all the adjustability of the nicer seats in the Limited, and because of that, I'm actually sitting up kind of high. I mean, as you can kind of tell probably from just the way that this is all framed up, it's kind of tight in here. It's not very roomy. I'm 5'9", and sitting in this seat as low as I think it'll go. I have maybe an inch or two of headroom here, so I would say if you're over 5'10", you're not going to fit in the standard car. I think the seat does go lower in the Limited, so just keep that in mind for those of you thinking about buying one of these. Definitely sit in it first. But otherwise, the seats are actually pretty good. They have actually nice torso support here for side bolsters, hold you in pretty nice and snug. Next is the steering wheel in the Crossfire, which is okay. So the weird thing is, the way the spokes here are on the wheel, it's almost like a 930 and 230 grip instead of a 9 and 3, so it's a little bit weird, and it's a little thick. It's kind of hard to get a good, you know, 9 and 3 grip on it. There are no 10 and 2 notches or anything like that, but it's nicely leather wrapped, and you know, I think that if you drive it in the 10 and 2 position, then you have a really nice grip. Next is the gauges in the Crossfire, which are pretty simple, but they're very classy. I like the font. It's very elegant, and you know, fits with the whole design and mood of this car. And so you know, you have your basic gauges, nothing too fancy, but like I said, they're attractive. They get the job done. Coming along to the center of the dashboard here, it's kind of cool. You know, it's all this plastic that's painted to look like silvery kind of metal stuff, and you know, I mean, it looks nice, but whenever you start touching stuff, this is where you realize, oh wait, this is 2005 Chrysler / Mercedes stuff, which was all pretty terrible for the most part. So all the plastic is loose and cheap feeling. All the knobs feel very cheap, and I think that, you know, a current day Kia feels miles better than this. It's really that bad, but it's okay. I mean, this, like I said, it's a 10-year-old car. I kind of have to give it a pass, right? So, you know, but I mean, it's attractive looking, and I think that, you know, the whole styling of the outside is kind of nicely mirrored here on the inside, with this body line going down the center of the dash pad here, and you even have a little body line going through the middle of the shift knob. So it's cool that they've kind of made the interior a little more stylistic as well. As far as storage space goes in the Crossfire, there's not much. So you have nets here in the doors, little for maps and whatnot. It goes the whole length of the door, but you can't fit too much in there. But it's nice that it's flexible. You could, you know, conceivably put a huge bottle in there or something if you really wanted to. Then come along to the center, you just have a little ashtray here that slides in and out, and that's kind of cool. And you have a power outlet there, and then you have a tiny little cubby here that I don't know what you would put in there, your key or a cell phone or something maybe. There's that, and then there's this center console in the back that's fairly deep, and you can, you know, fit a good amount of things in there. But this center console is hard plastic. It's like the same, you know, painted plastic to look like metal, and so that is as hard as a rock to put your elbow on. So not very comfortable, but otherwise, I mean, that's it. I mean, there's no other storage space. You know, you just have the trunk area, and that's it. So wish there was a little more storage, but again, 10 years ago, a little tiny sports car wasn't a priority. As far as trunk space, though, in the Crossfire, it is pretty good. So there's a very narrow opening, which is a little strange and can be a little impractical, but once you get through that opening, it's very deep, and it's a large size trunk, actually. I think you can fit a good amount of stuff in there. It's not quite as versatile as, say, a Corvette's hatch, but it's still very nice, and you know, adds a good amount of practicality that some other sports cars don't really have. All right, so start up and go for a drive. The Crossfire has a very cool Audi style switchblade key. Just flip up and starts right up. All right, so setting off in the 2005 Chrysler Crossfire. So the first thing that you notice driving this car is that it feels like you're driving around a chop top hot rod. I mean, the visibility is, I mean, it's fine, I guess, but you have like, you're in this tiny little greenhouse, and so, you know, the roof comes down really low, so you just have a somewhat restricted view forward, but the hood drops down nicely. You can see out just fine. It's just if you want to look up at the sky, you're gonna have to go like this because the roof is very low. And then side windows here, I mean, it's this tiny little opening, and you have to, like, you know, if you want to even look out at all, you kind of have to just duck your head underneath because it's a very narrow opening there for the side window. Rear visibility is also very rough because it's just a tiny little glass opening there, and so you almost look like you're like looking through binoculars or something, looking out the back. So that's interesting. Also, you have, because of the beautiful design with those rear haunches, you have terrible visibility over your shoulder there, so there's a nice big blind spot, but with your mirrors configured properly, you should be able to negotiate that okay. So, but yeah, visibility, not this car's strong suit, but this kind of car is the kind where it's, you know, form is the primary thing and function is the afterthought. So it's something that I think most people are glad to make for the good looks. You know, you're willing to make that sacrifice. But aside from the visibility, other things you notice right off the bat is that the shifter is a little imprecise, a little rubbery. Clutch is nice and light though, so that's good. And this driving position though is just really strange. And the car that I'm going to be comparing this to the most, that's most similar, I think, is the Nissan 350Z, which was also out at the same time. Very similar performance, and the driving position is amazing, one of the best I've ever reviewed, period. This is you know, kind of strange with, like I said, you can't lower the seat here in this base one, so I feel like I'm sitting up kind of high and kind of hobbled over. I feel like, you know how the car looks like it's kind of hunched over? I feel like I'm driving hunched over as well, and so just a little different. It's very unique. On this bumpy park road though, the ride isn't too bad. It's a little bit stiff, you know, it feels like a sports car, but it's not overly harsh or race car feeling. It feels like a nice Grand Tourer. Alright, so this car's got 110,000 miles on it, but let's turn onto this back road here and see how it does. Gets up and goes pretty well, actually. That was really fun. So we have a 3.2 liter V6 engine out of a Mercedes SLK, and in this car it does 215 horsepower and 229 pounds-feet of torque. And you know, it's sufficient. It doesn't blow your mind, but that was actually really fun. 0 to 60 for this car is 6.4 seconds, and so it's respectable. It's about a half second slower than a 350Z, so it can't quite keep up, but it's still very peppy for performance. So anyway, we're on this back road here. I'll roll this little window up, and this motor, it really feels pretty torquey though. I like it. Anyway, other things though, handling, steering is very loose and imprecise feeling actually, and I don't like it at all. The weight is decent, I'll say that, but it's not the sharpest of steering racks. Throttle is pretty good though. Throttle response is good. Brake pedal in this car, like I said, could because it's a 110,000 mile car, but the brake pedal is very mushy and imprecise as well, so that's less than ideal. But I'm actually having fun though going down this back road in it. It's pretty fun. Coming up to this tight corner I always take. Let's see about the body roll. it actually stays really flat. Wow, I have to say, I don't know if it's because of the large wheels and tire setup or what, but it actually handled that better than I was expecting. All right, so let's see about this power again, shall we? Okay, so it's fun. One thing though, I still had traction control on, and whenever you do that second gear chirp, it cuts power a little bit because this is an ancient traction control system, and it cuts power for a split second there and then lets you get back on the power once it's regained traction, which kind of inhibits the acceleration a little bit. But it's fun, it really is. It's a fun thing to drive. One thing though I will say is the shifter is also fairly rubbery, and yeah, I wish that it was more, I guess, positive and direct in its shifts, and that's something that the 350Z and cars like that do better, but it's not bad. All the mechanicals in this car, for the most part, are Mercedes SLK, first gen SLK. So not the best basis to start with, but it actually, you know, I think it works okay in this car. It's pretty fun so far, and I'm actually more impressed with it than I thought I was going to be, actually. So I'm going to drive this car around for a while longer here, and I'll come back and give you some updated impressions. Alright, so I've been driving this car for a little while longer now, and it's just so engaging to drive. This thing, it's just... I'm really enjoying it way more than I thought I would, and I mean, this thing is far from perfect. Like I said, all the interior critiques, you know, everything's just very cheap feeling. There's lots of rattles and stuff, but again, like I said, it's a 10-year-old car, 110,000 miles, so you know, for what it is, it's actually still really fun. This motor is just so torquey. It's just, I think that's the big difference, because, you know, it's only 15 more horsepower than like a BRZ, and this thing's right under 3,100 pounds, so you're a couple hundred pounds heavier than a BRZ, but for some reason this feels more lively, and I think it's that 229 pounds-feet of torque that this has from this V6 engine versus a tiny little four-cylinder with 151 pounds-feet of torque that you have in the BRZ. So I think that's what really helps to make this feel peppier than stuff like the FRS and the BRZ, and so, I mean, this is really one of those cool cars that, you know, it's depreciated so much now that you can get one for, you know, under 10,000 bucks, which makes it a really fun rear-wheel drive starter car for someone that wants something fun, and maybe the 350Z is more common in your area and you want something that looks a little different, or you just want the cool styling of this car. I think it's a really cool alternative. I mean, I think that the 350Z is more thrilling to drive, and everything is better made and well put together in the 350Z as opposed to this, but you know, this is still fun. You know, I think, you know, the biggest thing is with all the Mercedes mechanicals, you know, from these early 2000s, reliability is probably going to be questionable, but I don't know anything about the Crossfires or those Mercedes that much, so maybe it's okay reliability wise, but that would be my only concern with the 350Z. You know that it's pretty much bulletproof, you know, Japanese build quality, it's built to last. This might be a different story, but like I said, 110,000 miles, and this one still pulls strong and still drives really well. You know, like I said, there's a few squeaks and rattles. The brake pedal needs a little bit more firmness and probably, you know, some adjustment there, but otherwise it's still running like a top, and so it's really cool. And I mean, these cars got a bad rap in the mid-2000s because they sold tons of them in the very beginning. They were really hot, and then they just died off fast, and I think they kind of gained a reputation as a hairdresser's car, you know, just for someone that wants cool looks and stuff. And most of them actually came in automatics, but if you can find a manual one like this, it's really a blast. And I mean, if you do feel like it's not enough power, which I would recommend driving one first before you make that decision, but if you drive a regular one like this and you feel like you want more power, they did make the SRT6 version, the only SRT6 car that Chrysler and Dodge have ever made, and so that has a supercharger on this same V6 engine, 330 horsepower for the SRT6 version. Sadly, it only comes in an automatic, which is a shame, but I mean, either way, I think these cars are really fun to drive, and I had never driven one until today, and I really am pleasantly surprised. It's really a fun car, and like I said, for someone that wants something rear-wheel drive, sporty, cool-looking, this could really be the ticket, you know, if you don't, like I said, if you don't want a 350Z. yeah, it's just, they did a really good job. I think this is a car that's definitely underrated. There's very few people that even bother to review these or talk about them, and I think it's a real shame because I think that these cars are really underappreciated, and for what it is, it's really, really good. And if you're interested in them, this one is available from Harrison Auto Sales, and you know, I'm sure they'd love to help you out if you want to give them a call and check it out. But I mean, these just in general, there's quite a few of these out there, and since they were such collector's cars for a lot of people, you can find a lot with low miles still, which is also really great because you can get a lot of use out of them still. But yeah, so one little acceleration here, but yeah, really a great car. So let me know what you guys think about the Crossfire. And yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Take care.